Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at Daredevil number 173 through 176, continuing our look at this great Marvel superhero. Let's get started with 173. Daredevil goes berserk. He doesn't really. He just beats up a lot of guys like he always does. So we got the same creative team, of course, Frank Miller, writing and doing breakdown art. So Klaus Janson's taking on more of the lion's share of the actual art duties, and that's sometimes not a good thing. There's some goofy looking panels. You've probably heard me talk about this many times on the channel. I'm not a huge fan of Klaus Janson. When he's good, he's so freaking good. There's some panels in here that are just beautiful. And then there'll be some panels where you're just like, ay, Christ, what the hell's going on here? So we started off, Matt Murdock's walking down a dark alley in New York City. These thugs decide to fuck with him and mug him. And he basically kicks their asses, which just kind of seems out of character, because these guys might start talking and saying, hey, this is blind guy, I recognize him from the newspapers, and apparently he's not that blind, or he doesn't fight like a blind guy. But whatever, it's pretty good action scene. And next we see these two reporters from the Daily Bugle, a man and a woman, walking down the street, and out of this alley, we see these two giant, muscled arms kill the guy and then come for the woman. Matt Murdock is now dressed up as Daredevil. He hears the screams of this woman and runs across the rooftops to help. Some woman in an apartment screams and says, he's killing her, help, somebody help. And it scares the guy away. He runs. This art, see, if you can tell by this art, it's just like there's some really rough work going on here. It's very loose. Though some nice colors from Glennis Wine here. This might have been the best colored comic in Marvel at the time. So it turns out that Matt Murdock was just about to meet Melvin, the guy who's that's the name of the Gladiator. So Matt Murdock is now representing the Gladiator. And so one of the letter page guys does point out that, Frank Miller did great things with the Kingpin, but the Gladiator, he kind of turned him into an interesting character, but he totally ignored his whole history. Like, he made him a good-natured simpleton, basically. Like a child, an idiot man-child. And there was no evidence that the Gladiator was like that. He was just a ruthless bastard. And so it's just kind of weird that Frank Miller just totally took this character. So that's where we are now. And so Melvin is about to show up to meet Matt Murdock for a law meeting, or whatever you call it, a consultation, and the cops show up. And they're like, hey, you match the description of that guy who attacked those reporters in the alley. And his parole officer shows up, Betsy. We saw her a few issues back when the Gladiator wasn't acting like a child. And he kidnapped her. And but now he's totally docile. And she's telling the cops that, they have no evidence, whatever. And Matt Murdock shows up right around then. And he basically informs the police officers that they better, he's going to bring charges on them if they keep fucking with his client. But of course, they do arrest him. So Matt and his little assistant, Becky, the law clerk that works at Nelson and Murdoch, she's accompanying him to the criminal courts building to have a meeting with Melvin. And see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what Klaus Janson's capable of. It's just amazing. I mean, you can totally see his, he mentored under Tom Palmer. Some of these beautifully inked panels with all these like effects and wash tones but then many panels are just very like, eh. So Becky sees Melvin and she passes out in shock. She wakes up in the infirmary and she tells Matt that she says, that's the guy who crippled me. In case you didn't notice, she's in a wheelchair. I guess it's smaller on your screen. But, and she has been, throughout the series. And she says, yeah, that's the guy. And he, he had a mask on, but then he took it off and he was basically saying all the things, saying these horrible things like, you've been a bad girl, you must be punished. All this kind of creepy shit. And then he hurt her so bad that she's been in a wheelchair ever since. And she finally tells Matt, though, that she never reported it. She felt this almost shame. I don't know if they were implying that maybe he raped her, but Marvel couldn't allow that. Because it sounds like what rape victims, sometimes the experiences they have where they feel shame about it. But she feels shame just because she's like, I was a total victim. This guy had total control over my life. It was up to him whether I lived or died. I just wanted to forget it. I just wanted to escape. Matt is kind of almost scolding her, just like, Becky, you can't do that. You have to report things like that. Think of all the women that he victimized after, because he's, there's no testimony against him. And she's just like, leave me alone, get out of here. You don't know what it's like. So now we see lawyer Matt Murdock at the trial for Melvin. He gets a stay because all the newspapers are saying, Gladiator, attacks these two reporters. He's basically been condemned by the press already. So he's like, it's going to be hard finding an unbiased jury. So Daredevil hits the streets trying to get information. He knows that Melvin's innocent, or at least he feels it strongly. I like this guy. This is kind of interesting here, how he's like, this little montagey thing. Then we see him, beating up thugs and trying to get information. But I like how the foot of him here is stomping on some guy here. And here, look at this. Speaking of Glynis Wine's colors, nobody was doing this in Marvel Comics. It's like on this cheap newsprint, they were trying to do effects that you could only do on nice paper, with nice printing. So Matt goes to visit Foggy's wife. Foggy's hasn't been around. Foggy's been AWOL. Foggy gets home. He's got a 5 o'clock shadow. I don't know if he's drunk, but he's just like, get out of here, Matt. He just like is really pissed at Matt. It looks like the law firm of Nelson and Murdoch is done. The wife kind of confirms. She says, yeah, I don't know what's going on. He's been really just staying out at all hours. He won't talk to me. And now we see the real villain of this piece, the guy who actually did. Well, I don't know if it matters. He didn't actually kill the reporters. He almost killed them, but then, he was scared off. And it's weird. He has a female, kind of cohort. So I guess they're into abusing women together. That is pretty sick and weird and I don't know, underground stuff. And they're watching the TV and they see Betsy, Melvin's parole officer. And basically, this bad guy just says, oh, she's my next target. Meanwhile, Melvin has escaped from prison, and he's at the Museum of Human History, the Dibney Museum, which I believe is where that last issue where he kidnapped his parole officer happened, and he busts open the glass case to get his gladiator costume. Because the whole time, both Betsy and Matt Murdock have been worried about him lapsing back into his, bad state. So Matt Murdock shows up, talks him down. Some nice moody, shadowy art. Melvin says, "I'm all alone. Help me, please." Meanwhile, we see the apartment of Betsy, the parole officer, and there's a knock at her door, and it's that guy, the perv. Breaks into her apartment. That's really scary for like a Marvel comic. Here's some more of those interesting colors that you don't normally see in Marvel comics from this era. So Betsy's trying to evade him. She stabs him, and that really pisses him off. A bunch of neighbors show up and scare the guy away. He dives through the window. Daredevil shows up, and Betsy's okay, but just shaken. She knows about people like this guy. She's dealt with them because she's a social worker, and or at least they're victims. And she gives Matt a tip, or Daredevil. She says there's a bar where those kind of people hang out, people into that scene, and we show up at the Pit. It's like something from Cruising with Al Pacino. This is very decadent. It's almost like a sex club, S&M club, but it's just a bar, really. Marvel can't really get into it too much, And Daredevil shows up and starts roughing up the guy. But because everyone hears into the same scene, they all know this guy. They're like, hey, he's fucking with Mikey, and everyone attacks him. Now remember, these guys are all kind of roughnecks. They're a rough crowd. So they actually pin down Daredevil. You don't see that often. And they start pouring beer in his face. Certain things like Frank Miller's layouts here I don't know why that's just a great panel to me. I know it's dumb. It's just a guy pouring beer. And just the composition and stuff. There's so many panels in these comics where I'm just like, Frank Miller, man, he was a young guy. But I think he really kind of became very literate in comics language, comic storytelling language, very young. So they're just pounding on Daredevil. And Daredevil says to himself, he says, can't move, helpless. I'm helpless at his mercy, just like Becky was. And he gets some newfound strength, breaks away, and God, look at the fight choreography on this page. I love this panel. That is like, you can totally tell, Frank Miller loves Gil Kane there. Just some great layouts. And then here we can tell that Frank Miller loves Steve Ditko. Just this fight choreography. So the guy's mask comes off, and this is like one of those things that only happens in fiction. Daredevil kicks him across the bar. He lands right in front of the TV, right when the TV says, Melvin Drum. I'm sorry, Drum. I can't remember his last name, whatever. Melvin, the gladiator, turned himself over to authorities. And everyone in the bar is like, will you look at that? He's a spitting image for that guy on TV. So Melvin is cleared. We realize it wasn't him. Dead Ringers says the headline the next day. Melvin Potter, that's his name. And he comes to visit Becky. And he says, Becky, something happened last night. And I know how I've learned, I empathize more with what happened to you. But the man who battered you has been arrested, and apparently there's not enough evidence to convict him without your testimony. So please. And he says he'll go free, and you'll spend the rest of your life imprisoned by that one hideous memory. Becky, he robbed you of the use of your legs. Nothing can change that, but don't let him cripple you. And I love this use of panels to like slow down time. This just seems very Krigstein. Like, I think this is why Krigstein would do that stuff. You know, cut up the panels into smaller beats. Just for this. I mean, this could have just been one panel of her getting on the phone. But this whole, her looking at the phone, her wheeling away, looking at the guy's picture, dropping the newspaper, and then finally she calls the police. And she's going to do the right thing. So, pretty good great ending there. Okay, where were we? Number 174. Oh, God. Guys, I don't know if you're old as me, but I remember buying this off the racks and just being like, yeah, just feeling funny in my pants, in my bathing suit region. And just like, oh, wow, all three of these guys teaming up against ninjas. This is fucking awesome. And just the fact that Elektra was back. I mean, Elektra was only introduced a few issues ago, but instantly it was just like, oh my God, I want to see more of her. She's awesome. And she is. Rereading these as an old man, I'm like, yeah, I totally see why Elektra was a sensation. She's such a cool character. So we have a little prologue here. Once again with these great colors going on. And Elektra is stalking this guy on a bicycle. Someone else has a crossbow and shoots the guy right in the neck and kills him. Elektra was going to get a bounty on that guy. So she's going to be like, oh, I'm going to get that guy who shot him. Whoever killed him must face Elektra, says the caption box. So she's chasing him. It's a ninja. And, you know, from the Hand, the ninja organization that trained her. She recognizes him. So she follows him through the alleyways. And, oh, I forgot to mention, oh, never mind. We haven't got to the credits yet. But, guys, this issue is not only finished art by Klaus Janson, the colors. And this is just, I can't believe the colors in this. Like, I didn't even think Marvel's printing presses could do stuff like this on this kind of newsprint paper. I mean, we've seen stuff like that on, you know, those Crusaders comics, those weird Christian comics from the 70s. They somehow had this, like, on newsprint paper, they printed, like, really good colors, like, way better than any of the mainstream publishers. Maybe it cost a little more, I don't know. But part of this makes me angry. It's like, if you could do this in a normal, sorry, I'm stuttering, in a normal Marvel comic in 1981, why didn't they all look like this? This is, like, amazing. Look at the depth of these colors, the solidity of them. I was just flummoxed when I read this earlier. I was just like, I can't believe it looks this good. And maybe it even looked better 40 years ago when I bought it. Maybe, you know, it's might have faded in time. So Elektra follows them. Here's another one of those great panels of Klaus Janson art. I wish if every panel was like that, I'd be singing his praises. But, and this issue, I gotta say, is way better than the last. It does seem like almost every other issue, it's like, oh, Klaus Janson's on this month. No, he's not on this month. So who knows? But these panels of her stalking him, just great. Really just great, well-composed panels. So she finally tracks this guy to like some sewer. And she overhears another ninja say, "Here is your next target. An American lawyer named Matthew Murdock." And this is what made Elektra so interesting. She was basically the sworn enemy of Matt Murdock and Daredevil, and yet she still loved him deep down. So it even says, the captions say, she hates him. She does. She will not impair her life for his, and yet she finds herself on the next flight to New York. So she's a very torn character. And I'm sorry, guys, Klaus Janson did this with Glynis Wine, but you could tell there's obviously, coloring never looked like that before. So, and Janson is doing a bunch of stuff in here. I'm pretty sure he did that page And everything else on the creative team is the same. So this is called The Assassination of Matt Murdock. Once again, we see Matt Murdock in courtroom defending Melvin. Look at this, how Janson just used, okay, once again, I'm just assuming, because Janson does this a lot when he colors, just doing overlays for the neon lights of Times Square. So Matt's realizing that, Foggy's the big buffoon of the law firm, but he's realizing that he kind of needs him. Look at this, the coloring here. Sorry I'm talking about the coloring so much, but it really is bizarre. Like, seriously, I'm angry. How come Marvel Comics could do this? All those other titles could have had coloring this nice, but just chose not to? I don't know. I remember at a certain point, Marvel was experimenting with Mando paper, which was in the early 80s. It was a slightly better, slightly more white form of newsprint. And I did, if my shitty memory serves me correctly, I do remember, I think at one point Daredevil did switch over for an experimental run of Mando paper. So maybe that's why. Though this paper looks exactly like newsprint, once again, it's been 40 years. So maybe Mando doesn't hold up as well as other kinds of paper. So Matt gets back to his apartment, and there's ninjas waiting for him. So Matt fights them and kicks their butts. I could just read Miller fight scenes all day long. And the ninjas of the hand, they all dissolve when they're defeated. I don't know how that works. So we see Elektra has been standing by the whole time in case Matt needed help. Meanwhile, we see the Kingpin, and the Kingpin tells his lieutenant, he basically says, the lieutenant tells Kingpin, yeah, there's this ninja group, and they're taking some of our contracts away from us. What are you going to do about it, boss? And Kingpin's all like, I'm going to let my enemies fight each other. I've hired guys to dress up as ninjas. They're going to attack friends of Daredevil, and then Daredevil will go after those ninjas for me, almost like do my dirty work for me. Matt Murdock shows up to finally talk to Foggy while these ninjas are trailing him. Ninjas are in the alley waiting for Matt Murdock, but Elektra shows up. So there's a double narrative here while Elektra fights these ninjas. I love this little panel composition. It's very simple, but it looks so good to me. So Matt finally gets to the bottom of Foggy's weirdness. Turns out that Foggy screwed up the finances or something, and they're going to lose the storefront. I guess he's in charge of that type of stuff. And he's basically, it seems like a weird, I can't believe he's been that bad to his wife. He could have just told Matt, it's like, hey, sorry, I screwed up. But no, he's been ruining his marriage and his relationship with Matt for like a month. So they kind of make up. Matt tells him, he says, Foggy, you can't, I need you. You're not a failure. I totally need you. And they hug. Kind of a tender moment. But, and then we see these great fighting panels with Elektra and these ninjas. And Elektra's kicking the shit out of him, but one of them, before she can get to him, he throws this bomb into the law offices. And Elektra looks over. Matt, this does not look like the face of someone who hates, Matt Murdock. She still loves him. So Matt Murdock wakes up in the hospital. His girlfriend, Heather Glenn, is there. And still didn't understand what he sees in her. And all of a sudden he realizes his radar is gone. The bomb fucked up his head. So his radar skill's gone. Meanwhile, the prison truck delivering Melvin Potter, the gladiator, I guess to the next jail or whatever, prison. We see a hand throw a gas pellet into the truck cab, and it's Elektra. And she frees Melvin, and she has his gladiator outfit. She says, put it on, you're going to need it. And get ready, guys, for some kick-ass shit. And the ninjas come out, and it's Elektra and Melvin. Unfortunately, or I should say Gladiator, since he's wearing his costume. Unfortunately, Gladiator is this, like, new character. He's all like a, just like a sweet young child in his brain. So he's not really doing very well. He's like, I don't want to fight. Which is just so not the Gladiator, right? So Daredevil shows up. And he's kind of worried. He doesn't have his radar. He can still listen to people's heartbeats and zero in on them using his amazing senses, but it's not nearly as good. So he kicks all these crates down on top of the ninjas. Also begs the question, like, they could have hit Elektra and the Gladiator pretty easy, but you don't know. I just love that position there. Just that body language. So Daredevil's doing pretty good. I don't know if this is retro history, but he claims that, like, oh, this is like the old days before my radar sense really kicked in. So I don't know if that was a thing in the Silver Age Daredevil, that at first he didn't really have that. He just had his amazing senses. No biggie. I was just curious, though. And so they rout the ninjas. They get most of them. And a few run away. Melvin's injured, and the whole time, Daredevil doesn't even know Elektra's there. Because, he doesn't have his radar, and I guess all of his senses are concentrating on these ninjas. So he thinks he's doing really good. It's almost like a Mr. Magoo type thing, where he's like, oh, wow, they're all running. I guess I did pretty good. And he doesn't realize that Elektra killed like half of them, But Melvin says, oh, I'd be dead if it wasn't for that nice lady. And she's like, yeah, she was carrying 2 side knives. And he's like, oh, she was here. Once again, another great Klaus Janson panel. And then, not so great. So now we see the 3 surviving ninjas. They show up and they talk to their leader. This weird little guy in a suit who's just eating food. It seems weird that these guys would take orders from this little turd. So he basically says, well, you failed, so you must be punished. And this guy comes out, Karigi. He's almost like a ninja boogeyman. He's apparently deathless. And these ninjas are just like, oh, fuck, we're dead. And they are. Whooshunk. In one blow, he kills them all. And now he says, okay, here's your next mission. You're going to kill Elektra. We got a 2-page letter section. And another cover that just makes you go, oh, I can't wait to read this. I remember buying this off the stand, too. I bought all these off the stand. I was so into this comic, and it turns out I still am. $175. And I'm pretty sure all these covers are Miller Janson. So, sorry I didn't look it up, but same creative team, except now Klaus Janson is back to just finished art. Colors, it says Scheel and Sharon. Christy Scheel and Bob Sharon. They did tons of 80s coloring. So this one's called Gantlet. But is that supposed to be Gauntlet? Let me see the next issue thing in here. Is that a word? Gantlet. I don't know what that means. We see Elektra doing her yoga stretchings. Pretty nice. And all of a sudden she throws a knife She hears a sound. It's Daredevil. He snuck into her house. And he tells her about how he lost his radar sense. And he kind of tries to, appeal to her. And, he still loves her just as much as she loves him. And she says, I don't care about your problems anymore. And he says, don't you? No matter what happened, you did save my life. You risked a lot for me. And she says, Daredevil, mad, and it looks like they're going to kiss. And she says, don't let it go to your head. And she kicks him out the window. He luckily grabs a ledge, saves himself, while he's just thinking, she hates me. She hates me. Which is like, you don't see stuff like this in Marvel superhero comics. You really feel his pain, like, oh man, the woman you love not only doesn't love you, or it seems not like she doesn't love you, but she kicks you out a window, and you could have totally died. Another well-composed panel there, too. Or at least the body language is great. So this is weird. They just reprint the last page from last issue. That's kind of annoying. Has a kind of recap. But I have a feeling there's some Deadline Doom issues there. So Matt Murdock gets back to his place. Apparently Heather's left him for the third time this month because he's off gallivanting as Daredevil and he keeps breaking dates. And Daredevil goes out on patrol. This ninja's going to kill Foggy. And Daredevil shows up and stops this ninja. A bunch of other ninjas come. He stops them. Kind of a fun little scene where Foggy's totally oblivious. And Daredevil's just having these crazy life and death struggles with these ninja all around him. Now, one of the ninjas, he doesn't dissolve after he's defeated. So he says, what's going on? And he finds a business card on him. Ukifuni oddities. And then Elektra shows up and conks him on the head with her sai and takes the card. And she just runs off. Tells him he's useless without his radar. So she shows up at the oddity shop, totally pretending to be some American woman, typical American woman. She's like, my boyfriend wants some throwing stars. He likes that stuff. So he shows her all these cool throwing stars. And she whips around and throws them into these curtains. And there was ninjas waiting behind them. Kills them all. The proprietor of the shop, she knifes him in the back. He was trying to escape into this hatch down into the sewers. And she goes down there. Love this panel right here. So nice. And of course, there's more ninja down there. She fights them. And then Daredevil shows up to help her out. Meanwhile, back at the trial, Matt's AWOL, of course. He's being Daredevil. And Foggy, of course, sucks at being a lawyer, apparently. So he keeps stalling. He's just like, where's Matt? We need Matt. Even though he's the first name in Nelson and Murdoch. And then Karigi shows up. And this is some great, fun shit. So he's throwing stars at her. She's deflecting them. He leads her into this shadowy room. He attacks her. This is just some great fight shit. So we really see this guy, she's stabbing him in the chest. He's just pulling out the knives, the sign knives. He really does seem to be like Michael Myers, in Halloween. He's unkillable. Meanwhile, Daredevil's fighting these ninjas, even though I guess they're more they look like samurai. So we keep cutting in between the courtroom and here. Back to Elektra fighting Karigi. Some of the print, I think this is around the time when Marvel's printing got worse with the plastic presses. Because some of this shit is really just kind of fades out, you know. But then again, that could just be Klaus Janson. I don't know. So then that little leader guy shows up, the weird little guy in the suit. And I guess, you know, when Elektra was in the hand, he was her leader as well. And I guess he propositioned her sexually. And she laughed in his face. So he's wanted to get her ever since. I don't know why I love the silhouette panel. Just that graceful swoop of this this line here. And so Elektra finally guts Carigi through his whole body with his sword, his own sword. She starts strangling him because she's starting to get pissed off. She's just like, I will send you to hell. Why won't you die? She throws him down these steps, and when she goes to pursue him, he's gone. And then that little guy's all like, don't leave me, Carigi. I'm all alone. Back to Daredevil fighting these samurai-looking guys. And he's, even though he doesn't have his radar, he's kicking ass and taking names. It's pretty cool to see Daredevil with a sword. He grabs one of their swords. Meanwhile, we see Elektra. She's obviously just killed that little guy. And it says she's free of the hand now. I guess without him, he was the only one who wanted her dead, I guess. I don't know. Daredevil comes up and says, I'm taking you in. You're a cold-blooded assassin. And then he collapses, though, from loss of blood. Left here, unbandaged, he would surely die, says the caption. And Elektra would finally be free. But, of course, you know what's going to happen. So Matt Murdock shows up at the courtroom after, I don't know how long. I mean, you'd think you'd have to go to the hospital. But Heather's there. They make up. And it turns out Foggy won the case. So Foggy's not such a useless turd after all. Okay, what's next here? Oh man, this cover. God, if you were buying these comics back then, this cover was pretty iconic. I don't know why Elektra's purple. Her outfit's purple. This is one of the good issues, and the art's better on this one. And we see this hobo rooting through the garbage. He sees a samurai sword. Turns out it's still attached to Carigi. It's still sticking out of his gut. He kills the hobo. Oh, that's a great panel right there. And he's stumbling through the street. This cop tries to help him. He knocks him unconscious. He goes into this church. And I guess he's got these like healing substances on his person. So he's going to heal. He's going to take a little time. He pulls the sword out and hangs out for a little so he can get better. Meanwhile, we see Daredevil outside his own apartment. Heather comes out and says, what's the matter? He's basically like, I got to get my radar sense back. This is untenable. And he says, I had a mentor once who taught me how to use my, powers back when I was younger. And I think that's my only hope. I've got to find him again. This man named Stick. And Heather's all like, please, what would be so bad if he weren't Daredevil anymore? It's not the end of the world. Don't leave. And he does. And he almost like falls to his death because his senses aren't as good. He doesn't have the radar. And Heather's like, oh my God, he almost died. And she has this little almost soliloquy montage. And she says, there's other men. He doesn't even care about me. But then she just says, but he's the only man I love. I've got to help him. And she rushes out into the rainy night. And meanwhile, Elektra's been casing the joint. She sees her. And also Carigi, we find out, is following Elektra. Meanwhile, at Josie's bar, once again, Daredevil's going to fuck with Turk to get some information. He wants to find out where Stick is. And Turk and Grotto are playing poker. Once again, Turk's an idiot, and he's about to get shot because he was cheating at cards. And Daredevil trips him. And then someone comes up behind Daredevil and conks him on the head. Everyone's kind of freaking out. They're like, oh my God, you snuck up on Daredevil? That never happens. Holy shit, this could be our big chance. And Turk pulls out a gun. He's about to blow his brains out. And then Josie says, not in my joint, you won't. Get out of here. So they take him to the alley. And Daredevil wakes up, frees himself. Another just very quick, but just perfect fight choreography here. Yeah. And then he runs off. Even though the colors weren't as good as that other issue, they are very deep for a Marvel comic. Like really deep purples and deep blues. So now we see Heather go into some Bowery pool hall. And she says, I need information. I have to find this guy Stick. And a lot of guys in these bars just have no shirts on. I don't know if that was a thing in the early 80s in New York City bars. But they're just like these really, really Adonis-like muscular men with no shirts on. And it's not a gay bar. So he takes her out to the alley. Really, he just wants to make time with her. He wants to do her. But she pulls out a gun and she says, take me to Stick. So just from the way everyone talks about Stick, he sounds like this total charlatan scumbag type guy, you know? And he's like a grifter, a pool shark, and So now we see the Long Island headquarters of the Cord conglomerate. This is that factory that made those robotic suits from, I believe, number 167 in Daredevil. That one guy took one of the suits and attacked Daredevil. Well, he didn't attack Daredevil, but Daredevil fought him. And Turk and Grotto break in because they know about these suits. Basically, Turk is going to want some muscle. He's going to take care of Daredevil because he knows Daredevil's not 100%. So, Daredevil's like kind of roughing up other guys for information where Stick could be. And these two guys that he just roughed up, they noticed that Daredevil kind of almost slipped. And they're like, what? Holy shit, maybe Daredevil, something's wrong with Daredevil. Should we take the chance? I'm going to shoot him. And he says, do it. And right when they're about to shoot him, Elektra shows up and sighs them right through their chests. It's weird because the comics go, her sighs can penetrate flesh and bone, but they can't poke through the shirt. You can't show that. So she's totally Daredevil's bodyguard, even though she claims that she hates him. Karrig is still following her as well. So basically the trail leads to this guy, Wall-Eyed Pike. And I think that's his name. And he's just a low-level informant type guy. Elektra breaks into his window, sticks a sigh up his nostrils, and says, where's Stick? And he's like, tells her, he's like, God damn it, this fucking superhero types. And then Turk in his new power suit, he breaks through the wall and says, hey, where's Stick? So Pike is just like, oh, fuck, this is not my day. It takes a Alka-Seltzer. And Daredevil breaks through the other window. God, some of Klaus Janson's work on these panels is so awful. It's just some bad drawing. And I know he has wall eyes, but it's not even consistent. So finally he grabs a suitcase. He's like, I'm out of here. And then Heather Glenn shows up with that shirtless guy with her gun. And he just says, he's at Duke's. He's at Duke's pool hall. Kind of a fun scene. Now we see Stick finally. This is him, this decrepit old guy. You know, he's blind, but he's a pool shark. And because he has other senses. He's refined his other senses. So everyone, he's all like, these guys feel like they've been cheated. They're like, maybe you're not really blind. This is all a hustle. And right then Heather comes in with a gun. She says, leave that man alone. And then Daredevil shows up. And Daredevil starts attacking these guys. And, God, here's some of that bad printing. Like, look at this, or Klaus Janson's laziness. This is just really faded, and like, you can't really see. It looks terrible. So Daredevil beats these guys up. Stick is just mad at Daredevil. He's like, I could have cooled those guys off. You're still a hothead after all these years. You're a big show off. Thinking with your fists. And he slaps him with his cane. And Daredevil says, I need your help. And then right then the wall caves in and it's Turk. And even with his power suit, Daredevil, like, in 3 seconds knocks him flat on his ass. I like this, the panelless borders here of them fighting. So Elektra's watching the whole thing, waiting to, see what happens. And then Karigi finally says, now is the time to strike. And he attacks her once again. Some nice fighting. I guess I was wrong about this one being a better Klaus Janson art issue. This is a pretty, I think he was rushed. That's what it looks like to me. And Karigi's chasing her, and she gets in a Mack truck, and she plows it into Karigi. She dives out before it explodes. And just like in all those horror movies, like Halloween 2 or Halloween 1, Karigi comes out on fire. Unstoppable. And finally, Elektra's had enough, and she just chops his head off. It says, God or demon, Karigi had a neck that was human enough. And then we end with just Elektra's thoughts. Her just wondering what's going to happen. Will she be strong enough when the time comes? Will she be able to kill the only man she's ever loved? Because she knows it's going to come down to that. Daredevil's not going to rest until she's behind bars. And she's not going to allow that. So she's going to have to take him out. She shudders, touched by something colder than the wind. And that's how we end. Letter page. And that's it for this round of Daredevil, guys. These are, man, I love looking at these. I just almost wish I could recapture the thrill of reading these when I was like 13, 14. But I still like them now. But I think I didn't realize how so much of the art's not that good. Klaus Janson, I thought Klaus Janson got crappier later because he was so good in the 70s. And then he became really bad quick, I guess. And so, but like I said, every now and then he has a panel that's just amazing. So it's kind of weird that he is capable of being really good, and yet he chooses not to most of the time. Or maybe he just gets behind on deadlines. So just love all this stuff. Elektra, even though Kingpin wasn't in these a lot, he's the background. Just Frank Miller sets up this great whole scenario with these Daredevils. It's like even having Turk around for comic relief and Josie's Bar, all that shit. It's all Frank Miller. Well, actually, it's all Roger McKenzie, sorry. A lot of it is. But he started the ball rolling. Okay, I'm obviously blathering away. And so I want to thank you guys for watching this. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.